Yes, sir. What's your name?
Ariane.
Say again?
Ariane.
Ariane, go ahead, sir.
So there are numerous chapters or passages in the Bible that speak of children obeying their parents. For example, Ephesians 6:3. So first off, what are children? And second off, to what degree are children expected to obey their parents? Because it's easy to say children aren't required to obey sinful commands from their parents.
Sure.
But what about commands that aren't necessarily sinful, like where to go to college or who to date or what career to pursue?
At what point do children stop being required to obey their parents? Thinking Face does Ephesians 6 verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. Apply to adults or just minors? And what if parents are overly controlling? Do young adults still have to obey them in who they date, where they go to college, or what career they pursue? In this Q&A session, Frank Turek tackles one of the biggest questions young adults face. How long does parental authority last? While the Bible commands children to obey their parents, does that mean lifelong obedience, or is there a point where honor replaces obedience? This is an important discussion because it affects real-life decisions, from education and career choices to dating and marriage. Should parents have the final say, or is there a biblical case for breaking free from parental control?
Well, I don't. That's going to be a question that has to be answered on a case-by-case basis, because I don't know the situation, and I don't know if there's necessarily a biblical principle involved other than obey your mother and father. But that doesn't mean when you're an adult you can't make your own choices, right?
Right.
I mean, can you imagine, you send a kid off to college and he calls you one night and says, "Hey, Dad, can I stay up past 11? The father's going to be like, "What are you doing?" I mean, you're an adult now. You got to start making your own decisions, right? So if we're going to make mature people, there's got to come a point where the parents pull away their demands and maybe just give advice. Because once you become an adult, and especially when you're out on your own, you got to become an adult and take care of yourself, right? Your parents aren't going to be around forever either.
Right. So who is considered a child?
Well, what is the age of accountability is one question, and that's debated among theologians. I think for girls it's probably 7. For men it's 37. Okay.
I got ways to go.
Huh? Look. We pick 18. But does that mean every 18-year-old is mature enough to... No. There are some 16-year-olds that are, though, right? We just kind of arbitrarily pick 18 because we think that's about the time somebody should be an adult. Does it work for everyone? No, it's a general principle.
Okay, so you mentioned that it's a case-by-case basis. Doesn't that kind of make it subjective? And then if it is subjective...
No, let me stop right there. It's not subjective to get evidence for a particular situation to then make an objective decision if, in fact, that objective decision lines up with some command of the Bible.
So can an objective decision be sinful or not sinful?
What are you getting at, man? This is like cryptic because you're not giving me enough information.
Okay. So let's suppose a 17-year-old who's not 18 because he's 17. A 17-year-old...
Is this a brain twister?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
A 17-year-old wants to go to a specific college, but his parents don't want him to go to that specific
You are under no obligation to fund your kid's college education. Can I say that?
Sure.
Because you're not. You're not obligated. You may want to. It may be a good thing. But if you are going to fund it and you disapprove of where he's going for whatever reason, well, that's up to you. You can say you can go there. You're 18, go there, but I ain't paying for it.
So in that case, it's not sinful for the...
Is your son in here right now? Is he? No, go ahead.
So in that case, it wouldn't be sinful for the 17-year-old to choose to go to a different college that his parents don't want him to go to if he's choosing to pay for it himself.
How mature is this 17-year-old?
Mature enough to go to college at 17.
No, I wouldn't say it's sinful because it's if he's not going to the college of Satan, right?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, if he just has a preference for another school for whatever reason, how would that be sinful? It may be...
Because he's disobeying his parents.
Okay,
that's what I'm getting.
Okay, well, first of all, let's point out that most of the decisions we make in life are not right or wrong. They're wise or unwise. In other words, most decisions are wise or unwise. God doesn't tell you where to go to college, right? God doesn't even tell you who to marry as long as you marry somebody in the Lord. God doesn't tell you what job you should get. Most of the decisions you make are wise or unwise. That's why there's 31 chapters of Proverbs. Okay? It's not right or wrong necessarily. Most are wise or unwise. So you should lay out all the pros and cons of both places, and then maybe you can put your heads together and try and figure out what the wisest decision is.
So would you say that it would be okay for someone to disobey their parents if their parents are advising something that would be unwise?
You know, I have no idea.
I'm not trying to
I need to know more.
Parents
I need to know more, okay? I think at some point kids are going to have to make their own decisions, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, but I never check it. So I'm not really LinkedIn.
Okay, well,
All right?
I was going to send you a connection, but I guess not.
You can try. I ignore most of them, but go ahead. I'll look for yours.
All right.
Okay?
Ariane Alai.
Ariane. All right, thanks, man.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
Frank Turek gave a solid, practical response, but there are a few areas that need further clarity. Ephesians 6 verse 1 clearly says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord." But who is considered a child? Exodus 20 verse 12 says, "Honor your father and mother." This command is lifelong, but does honor mean the same thing as obedience? Biblical example. In Genesis 2 verse 24, marriage is described as leaving father and mother, showing a transition away from parental authority in adulthood. Keycap 2. What if parents give bad advice? Frank hinted at this but didn't fully answer whether it's sinful to disobey parents in non-moral decisions. Biblical wisdom. Proverbs 11 verse 14, "Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety." Sometimes, wise counsel comes from beyond parents. If a young adult prayerfully seeks wise counsel and makes a decision in line with biblical wisdom, they are not in sin even if their parents disagree. Keycap 3. How do you balance obedience and independence? Frank emphasized maturity, but what if parents and children disagree on what maturity looks like? The Bible teaches wisdom over blind obedience. Not every command parents give is morally binding. Colossians 3 verse 20 says, "Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord." But it doesn't specify for how long. Key principle. As children grow into adults, obedience transitions into honor, which means respecting their guidance but making independent, biblically informed choices. Loudspeaker final thoughts. How should Christians handle this? Keycap 1. If you're still a dependent, living at home, financially supported, obedience is generally expected. Keycap 2. If you're an independent adult, you must honor your parents, but not necessarily obey them in personal decisions. Keycap 3. If your parents' guidance is unwise but not sinful, seek godly counsel, weigh the options and make the wisest decision. Keycap 4. If parents try to control adult children's personal choices, dating, college, career, the Bible supports respectful independence. Books. Recommended books for further study. Open Book Boundaries, Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, How to Set Healthy Biblical Boundaries with Parents and Authority Figures. Open Book Parenting, 14 Gospel Principles That Can Radically Change Your Family, Paul David Tripp, A Biblical Perspective on Raising Children to Transition into Adulthood. Open Book Growing Up Christian, Carl Graustein and Mark Jacobson, How to Navigate Faith, Family, and Independence as a Young Adult. Speech Balloon. What do you think? At what point should children stop obeying their parents? Let's talk in the comments. Backhand index pointing down fire.